Tonight, you're going to get the truth about Ukraine and Russia. Everyone's losing, all over the world, losing their mind over a statement made by President Trump on Truth Social earlier today. I am fixing to help you navigate through the insanity. I'm going to help you understand where Donald Trump is coming from, what he means, and I'm going to prove to you who started this war and how it's going to end. So, I'm just waiting on a few people to get on here tonight. I would normally wait until my show next Tuesday night to address this, but it's too important for me to not deal with it tonight. Because it looks like President Trump has fallen off his rocker unless you know the game he's playing. And I know that game, and I'm going to help you figure that game out tonight. So why don't you do this real quick? This teaching you're going to want to share in all your Patriot groups because y'all need to know what Donald Trump is doing. You need to understand the game he's playing, and you need to know the truth about Ukraine and Russia so that you can counteract all these crazy Facebook posts and Instagram posts, that TikTok videos. They're all losing it over what Donald Trump said today. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to share, and let's build our audience tonight as they come in. When I come back in 30 seconds, we're going to dive into the truth and we're going to make you experts on this subject, okay? So thank you for joining me tonight. Give me 30 seconds and I'll be right back.
Have you considered when you spend your money at these mega corporations where it's going? Are you aware that your hard-earned money is being used to support political corruption, which leads to poor federal leadership, hurting our economy, contributing to the overall detriment of our society? This is heavy stuff to think about, I know, but it's time we fought back. Introducing Professor Toto's The Patriots Buying Club. Here, we are a club that gives you the power to invest in companies that uphold patriotic and conservative values your family can respect. Rather than spending your money with these major corporations, we've partnered with a direct consumer company that offers over 400 high-quality, sustainable, and effective products that can be delivered fast directly to your front door. So many patriots across America has joined us in this walkaway movement. Now it's your turn. Go to www.buybuywalmart.com to join Professor Toto.
All right. Here is a post made by Donald Trump earlier today on Truth Social. Think of it. A modestly successful comedian, Volodymyr Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that could not be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the U.S. and Trump, will never be able to settle. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed, while the United States will get nothing back. Why didn't sleepy Joe Biden demand equalization? In that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us. We have a big, beautiful ocean as separation. On top of this, Zelensky admits that half of the money we send him is missing. He refuses to have elections, is very low in Ukrainian polls, and the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle. Now, what does that mean? How did he play Biden? I'm going to show you in a minute. A dictator without elections? Zelensky better move fast, or he's not going to have a country left. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia. Something all admit only Trump and the Trump administration can do. Biden never even tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably wants to keep the gravy train going. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions have died. And so it continues. Well, that post has set the media on fire. Podcasters are losing their mind. Even MAGA people don't know what to make of this. Well, that ends right now. Are you ready to be fully educated on this subject? Here we go. The great state of Texas, most of you watching me are from the United States. So I'm going to use the United States as a parable to give you a deeper truth. The great state of Texas, let's just say that they decided to pull away from the United States of America. They decided to secede from the Union. Now, there's a problem because in the great state of Texas, there are nuclear weapons owned by the United States that just happen to be positioned in Texas. So Texas breaks away. They've got nuclear weapons. And we in the United States decide that it's probably not a smart move to go to war with Texas. Number one, they have nuclear weapons. Number two, there would be just too much death. And after all, they are our brothers and sisters. They are Americans, if you will. So we sort of decide, you know what? Let Texas alone. And then Texas passes a law in their state Congress, and that law is called non-alignment. They decide in Texas that they are not going to align with any of our enemies. In other words, they're going to be neutral, sovereign, separate, but no threat. They're not going to allow China to move into Texas and threaten our homeland. So in response to that, we sort of leave them alone. Of course, we would love to have them back. And in our hearts, we believe they belong to the United States. But one day it will work itself out. And one day we'll get Texas back. Okay. Now, we still have a problem with Texas. The problem is they have nuclear weapons. So what do? We call a few countries and say, hey, we need to get nuclear weapons out of the hands of Texas. So the United States of America will make an agreement with Texas, and these other countries will make an agreement and say, Texas, if you will give up your nuclear weapons, the United States will not become aggressive to you, and these other countries will protect you if you'll give up your nuclear weapons. And Texas agrees to do it. It's a win-win for everybody. So for a decade, we go along and everything is fine. Texas is not seeking to shake up the status quo, if you will. They're being good, and we're being good. One day, Texas gets a new governor that decides that he wants to join China. He wants Texas to become a province of China, the sworn enemy of the United States of America. And so this governor never would have done this unless he had powerful friends that assured him that they would protect him against the United States if he wanted to join China. And suddenly, guess what? We at the United States find out that he has filed paperwork to officially join the Chinese government, allowing China to no longer be separated from the United States by a big, beautiful ocean. No, now they get to move in to our motherland. Do you think we would ever allow that? Don't you think at that moment all agreements with Texas would be off the table because they have provoked the United States of America? Now, here's my question to you. If we move forward to take Texas back at that point, who started the war? Texas or the United States of America? Yes, we started the aggression, but who started the war? I'm going to look for your answers right now before I proceed. Someone tell me who would start that war? Who started that war? Texas or the United States? I'm watching for your answers. For those of you that are confused, this is an analogy. I'm just giving you an analogy. Rachel Straub is correct. Vicky Rasmussen is correct. Texas Rose is incorrect. Ruth Rosario is correct. Swena is correct. Rebecca is correct. Mia is correct. Santel George, Stephanie Inselberg, James Zimmerman, Karen DeFusco, Sandy, Juan, Robert McLeod, you're all correct. Texas would have started that war. Now, if the governor of Texas called Europe, let's say they called Germany, and the German president told them they would protect them, then guess who got played like a fiddle? Germany. All right. Now, that was an analogy. Let me give you a timeline. Let me give you the facts, not the drama, not the emotions. I'm going to show you how Joe Biden started this war and how Donald Trump would have prevented it. There is something called NATO, the sworn enemy of Russia. NATO is an alliance of European nations that hate Russia. They are enemies, all right? 1991, Ukraine gained its independence. The Soviet Union fell apart. Within Ukraine was, guess what? Some of those old nuclear weapons from the Soviet Union in Ukrainian possession. Well, Russia, the United States, nobody wanted Ukraine to have nuclear weapons. So what do? We signed an agreement called the Budapest Memorandum, telling Ukraine, if you will give up the nuclear weapons, Russia, The United States and the United Kingdom will protect you if you'll give up your nuclear weapons. All right. Now, I'm going to say, let me make sure I have my dates right. I'm going to say after 91, in 1994, after they gained their independence, they started talking about wanting to join NATO. Okay. They actually joined NATO's Partnership for Peace program in 1994. Now, that alone already got Russia on edge. Ukraine was supposed to remain non-aligned. They were supposed to remain sovereign and non-aligned. But they started creeping their way towards NATO in 1994. In 2008, NATO officially, Ukraine requested to join NATO at the 2008 NATO summit in Bucharest. It asked for a map to membership. All right. But here's what you need to understand about NATO. For a nation to join NATO, it must have unanimous support of all the nations. The United States, you must especially have the support of the United States, the largest member of NATO, if you want to be accepted into NATO. All right? So keep that little tidbit in mind. Every nation must agree. Ukraine did not have the support of France and Germany because why? France and Germany knew it would provoke Russia. So the United States of America, France, and Germany would never give their support for Ukraine to join NATO. So in 2008, when they requested to join, it did not happen. All right? Why didn't it happen? Because these nations knew war with Russia would be a given if they tried to join NATO. All right? Now let's move forward to 2010. In 2010, the president, Viktor Yanukovych, signed into law the non-alignment agreement. In other words, their House of Representatives, whatever they call it, voted to never align with Russia or NATO. They understood what did not need to be explained. Be a good boy, you have no problems. They agreed in 2010 under President Viktor Yanukovych, they passed a law called non-alignment because they had already known that the United States, France, and Germany was not going to approve them for NATO membership. So they agreed to align with no one. Well, 4 years later, Vladimir Putin took over Crimea, okay, because they believed Crimea belonged to Russia. So they went in and took over Crimea. At that time, President Petro Poroshenko restarted in 2014 the NATO push to join NATO. After he saw Russia take Crimea, he then started again, after the non-alignment agreement, he started again pushing towards NATO. In December 2014, Ukraine officially renounced its non-alignment status, and NATO membership became part of their goal. In 2016, 2017, 1 year after Donald Trump was elected. This is why Donald Trump says the war would never have started if I was president. I'm going to tell you what he meant by that now. In 2017, Ukraine took another step by signing the annual national program with NATO, all of the reforms they would need to do to come up to NATO standards. They began that process 2017. They began making their military equipment NATO standard. They started training with NATO forces. And Russia is watching all of this as their sworn enemy is encroaching on what Russia believes is their territory, like America would believe Texas was our territory. So hairs are starting to stand up. In 2019, the Ukrainian parliament passed a constitutional amendment that committed Ukraine to seeking NATO and EU membership, despite warning after warning from Russia. Now, guess who's president when they do that? Donald Trump. Guess who's on the phone every day, if you will, with Donald Trump? Zelensky. Trying to play Donald Trump like a fiddle. Trying to get Donald Trump to commit to support Ukraine joining NATO. Remember, it is a non-issue if the United States does not support it. Well, Donald Trump knew that if he gave his support to Zelensky, that it would start the Russian war. Because that would give Zelensky the wherewithal to move full speed ahead in joining NATO. So Donald Trump, that's why when Trump keeps telling you, if I was president, the war would never have started, because Trump knows what started the war. Yes, Russia started the aggression, but Russia did not start the war. Joe Biden started the war, and I'll prove that to you in just a moment. So Donald Trump says, if I would have been in office, I'd already talked to Putin. I knew what Putin was going to do. If Ukraine broke that non-alignment status, then Russia was going to protect what it believed was its territory. Okay? However, 2020 happened. And here comes sleepy Joe Biden. And now you know what Donald Trump meant when he said Zelensky played Biden like a fiddle. He calls Joe Biden. And evidently, Uncle Joe tells Zelensky privately that he's going to support Ukraine joining NATO. And what does that give Zelensky the unction to do to begin that process? Because now the United States would be on board. And in fact, Joe Biden came out and gave his express support for Ukraine to join NATO. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just given you the truth, the absolute truth. Now, Zelensky was very smart because he had the United States in a catch-22. We agreed in the Budapest Memorandum to protect Ukraine from Russian invasion or any invasion. So Zelensky found a way to get our support to start the war, and then he had us on the hook to pay for the war. Because after all, an agreement is an agreement. The Budapest Memorandum had us by the something. It had us. And now that man played Joe Biden on both ends. If Joe would have ever said, no, we're not supporting you, the war would never have started. Now, how's Donald Trump going to end this war? How? Very simple. By saying what he said today, to wake that little boy up that leads Ukraine. Let him know, you played us like a fiddle, but we never agreed to an endless war. We're about to pull the money. And without us, you're going to lose your whole country. Notice how he said those words. You're going to lose your whole country. You know why he said that? Because Zelensky is going to have to be willing to give up the portion of his country that Russia already has. That, or you're going to lose it all. So what you read today on Truth Social was Trump's battle plan, okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that helps you understand. Thank you, Robert McLeod. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you understand who started the war. Yes, Russia started the invasion, but Joe Biden started the war. Thank you for watching tonight. God bless you all. Bye-bye.